যদি উইল বা ট্রাস্ট না রেখে যাই তাহলে ওনার ছেলেমেয়েরা কিছু পাবে না। তার অর্থ হচ্ছে ওনাকে আগেই ট্রান্সফার করে দিতে হবে তার অ্যাসেটস তার বাচ্চাদের নামে। যখন এই ট্রান্সফারটা তাদের বাচ্চাদের আপনার ছেলে মেয়ের নামে হয়ে গেল, তখন আরেকটি সমস্যা হবে যখন তারা বিয়ে করবে তাদের ওয়াইফ যদি ছেলে হয়ে থাকে, যদি মেয়ে থাকে, তার হাজব্যান্ড, তারাও এই সম্পত্তির অংশ হয়ে দাঁড়ায়। হোয়াট ইজ এ ট্রাস্ট? সো লেটস স্টার্ট উইথ হোয়াট ডু ইউ ডু in these scenarios to protect yourself, your future assets, and how do you do it? Tamanna Aziz, she said one thing, that means, based on our discussion, if I have a property and I have to give my property to my kids before I die, otherwise they will not get it. I want you to explain.
No, that's horrible. That's the worst thing you can do. Great question.
This is one of the best questions I was expecting.
I see this happen so many times.
I want to explain this in Bangla so that everyone understands. আপনারা যারা দেখছেন, প্রশ্নটি হচ্ছে এরকম, and প্রশ্নটি শুনলে মনে হবে innocent question. It's not. It's a very deep question. তামান্না আজিজ জিজ্ঞেস করেছেন, তার অর্থ কি আমরা যে আলোচনা করছি, যদি উইল বা ট্রাস্ট না রেখে যাই তাহলে ওনার ছেলেমেয়েরা কিছু পাবে না। তার অর্থ হচ্ছে ওনাকে আগেই ট্রান্সফার করে দিতে হবে তার অ্যাসেটস তার বাচ্চাদের নামে। I explained that to Affar Baksh, and he said this is one of the very scariest thing. Please explain.
All right. So what happens is when you have your property and you deed it to your children, okay?
Yeah.
They're of age and they get it, after they're 18 years old. That's the worst thing you can do because now they don't get the stepped up in basis, okay? They won't get the fair market value of the property when you pass away. It's deemed a gift. So you get carryover basis, not stepped up basis. So I just want you first, if you want to just, do you want to explain that first before we go on to?
So what you just said is that if you do that,
they'll have to pay capital gains tax.
They have to, okay. আপনি যদি আপনার বাচ্চাদের নামে আগে থেকেই সম্পত্তি করে দেন, no will, no trust, you transfer the wealth, তাহলে একটি ব্যাপারটা আছে, এটা গিফট হিসাবে আসবে এবং তার জন্য এই ট্রান্সফার অফ ওয়েলথ অর্থাৎ সম্পদের যে হস্তান্তরটা হলো, যার জন্য আপনাকে ক্যাপিটাল গেইন ট্যাক্স পে করতে হবে। দ্যাটস নট এ গুড আইডিয়া বিকজ এই বার্ডেনটা আপনার ছেলে মেয়েদের উপরে পড়বে। ওকে, আই গট দ্য ফার্স্ট পার্ট ডান।
The second another problem is that now that children are on it, you cannot have any asset protection for them because now when they get married, the property is now part of the marital estate.
Okay. So the second problem, first problem, তাদেরকে এক্সট্রা ট্যাক্স দিতে হচ্ছে যেটি তার একটা বার্ডেনে পড়ে যাবে, $100,000 or more. সেকেন্ড হচ্ছে যখন এই ট্রান্সফারটা তাদের বাচ্চাদের আপনার ছেলে মেয়ের নামে হয়ে গেল, তখন আরেকটি সমস্যা হবে যখন তারা বিয়ে করবে তাদের ওয়াইফ যদি ছেলে হয়ে থাকে, যদি মেয়ে থাকে, তার হাজব্যান্ড, তারাও এই সম্পত্তির অংশ হয়ে দাঁড়ায়। That's the second the problem.
So now let's say the child,
yes,
you guys are living there for like 20, 30 years. Unfortunately now, one of your children gets divorced.
The spouse.
And that in-law says, I want my share.
Of course.
So now she's can literally force the sale.
To sell.
Right? Through the divorce,
Can happen.
Yeah.
Does happen.
A lot.
Yes.
Right. So that's why we tell them, do not ever do this, right? And then the third thing is that you're tied to your children, right? At that point, right? You can't force them to get
not to do or what to do.
Right. So if you want to take a mortgage out, you want to sell, you want to relocate, you're older, you want to leave New York, go to Florida, something like that, your kids don't have to sign.
That brings me to my first question. What do you do? And I know you're going to say trust. So second question, obviously, what is a trust? So let's start with what do you do in these scenarios to protect yourself, your future assets, and how do you do it?
Well, I mean, the trust, as I said, is it's a three-way relationship.
So basically, you do it through a trust.
Yeah, it's a written agreement.
Okay, so let's explain trust.
So somebody goes to an attorney, right? And then the attorney basically takes all your information and he creates this massive document, right? Which addresses several issues, right? First, what is your intent? It addresses like how much is of your estate that you own. So most of the times, 99% of the times, you're going to do a simple trust because you're less than $7 million, right? So there's a thing in New York State that if you go over $7 million, there's an estate tax, right? So as long as you're under that, then it's pretty. Now you're addressing these contingencies as we were talking about, little nuances.
Right, nuances. You said. Now, if you're under $7 million, it's one equation.
Yeah.
If you go over it, it's a different equation. So you talked about trust. Can you tell me what's the basics of trust?
The basics is this, how do I simplify it? You're able, through this written document.
Right. So there's one piece of paper.
Yeah. So they just allow you, even though you're the grantor, you're the person who owns the property.
Right. The grantor is the one who owns the property. Make believe I am the one who owns the property,
So you own
and I am the grantor in this case.
So now, one of the main reasons we do this is to avoid the court.
Right.
You go to an attorney.
Right.
After it's created, a half hour to an hour.
Correct.
You're now the children will now be the owners. That's one of the reasons we do this.
So
to avoid probate.
To avoid probate, avoid the court, avoid the taxation,
time,
the time and aggravation.
Right. Then there's the next level. Okay, so when the client comes to me, I say, do you have any reasons or things that you want to address with your children?
Correct.
Maybe you have a child who is unfortunately a little wayward. He has a lot of debts.
Possible.
Car accidents, judgments.
Okay.
Maybe he takes drugs, right?
Possible.
Right. So we would create this trust to make sure that this trustee is there to make sure he gets his money,
right,
but in the control of the trustee, not in the child's hands.
Okay. So I am the owner of the asset.
Yep, your dad.
So I'm a grantor.
Yep.
Let's make believe you are the trustee, meaning you are the one who I trusted with my assets.
Well, initially you'll be the trustee of your own trust.
I am also the trustee.
Yeah,
I'm also the trustee.
Initially you are, yeah.
Right.
But it's when you pass away.
When I'm not there anymore.
Yes. We set up set up another trustee for that child.
Okay. Now, the part you just said, আপনারা যারা দেখছেন, আপনার 3টি 4টি ছেলে মেয়ে থাকতে পারে, তাদের মধ্যে একজন হয়তো এমন থাকতে পারে who is addicted to drugs, maybe. যে অনেক পয়সা উড়ায়, অথবা যার মাদক সেবনের অভ্যাস আছে, অ্যালকোহলের সেবনের অভ্যাস আছে। আপনি নিশ্চয়ই চাবেন না যে আপনি যখন ট্রাস্টি তৈরি করছেন, একটা ট্রাস্ট তৈরি করছেন, সেখানে সমভাবে যে অর্থটা যে কোনো সময় নিয়ে যেতে পারে, যার জন্য আপনি নিজেও ট্রাস্টি, আপনার ট্রাস্টের, কিন্তু আরেকজন ট্রাস্টি থাকতে পারেন আপনি না থাকলে, আপনার অবর্তমানে। সো who are the beneficiaries? Even though it's self-explanatory, let's explain.
Yeah. So it can be the children, right? It could be a loved one. It doesn't have to be your children. It can be charitable. Right?
Okay.
So I know a lot of people give their money to Darrell Luma, New York, right, doing it on 150th Street. A lot of people leave them as their ultimate beneficiary. So if everyone were to pass away,
right,
that school would get in, you would get Sadaqah Jariyah.
Correct. And now I'm coming to a different aspect. You have a basic trust. You have a grantor.
But you didn't ask one of the questions. Who
which
can
is
be a
what?
trustee?
Huh?
Who can be a trustee?
Oh, thank you. So who can be trustee?
Okay, so
the two part of it. Who can be a trustee? And I hear many times the person who owns asset, meaning who's setting up the trust with the help of a lawyer, it cannot be trustee. This is true.
Okay, so there's two parts to that, right?
Right, so, two parts of the question.
So the first part is the grantor can be the trustee of his own trust. Where it gets a little hairy is when you have this thing called an asset irrevocable trust. So now you're trying to prevent creditors from coming after your property, right? So a lot of attorneys, 90% of attorneys don't know that law, and there's a misconception, even with attorneys, that the grantor cannot be the trustee. And that's not true. I mean, we do those trusts. It is enforceable where even though the grantor is a trustee, as long as he doesn't take the property in his name, which we're not, and we're not taking any income from it, creditors do not have a right against it.
Okay.
But the second part is who's the actual person to be a trustee? So a lot of people, I get this question. Listen, I have a brother. I only have family in Bangladesh.
Right.
I have no one else to put.
True.
I cannot use that person. Has to be a U.S. citizen, green card holder.
So whoever become the trustee
has to be a U.S. citizen, green card holder.
It's a requirement that U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
Not a green card holder?
Yeah. That one I have to check, but I know definitely U.S. citizen.
It's definitely U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's continue.
Yeah.
So we got. What is a trust protector?
Okay. So remember how I was explaining earlier how for an undocumented.
Let's
people,
take
right?
that example.
Yeah. So this is again like a checks and balances. You have another trustee, so to speak, but his name is called a trust protector. It could be anybody that you trust. It could be a professional. It could be a CPA or accountant. Your CPA could be an attorney. It could be a friend. And basically what we do is, they have a copy of the trust. They see the terms of the trust. They know the intent of the trust, which is to get this property to the children. So let's say you put your brother as a trustee. For whatever reason, listen, the brother
Right.
is married to somebody.
Right.
It happens. Listen, you're working so hard for that property. Let's sell the property, and maybe we can invest and do something like that. And then the trust protector
Right.
would say, no, that was there to pay for the kids' education, right? That was there to house them. That was there to do X, Y, and Z. So this trust protector is there to just make sure that the trustee does what they're supposed to do.
Right. So, and we see that playing out many times, that people will come to you and say, you know what, your father bought this at $300,000. Look at this. This is $2 million property now. If you sell it now, the time is right. You can actually put away some money for these kids, for the schools, and the rest of the money you can invest into a business
Something.
or stock market, and the things will go wrong.
100%.
Things will go wrong. And this is one of the main reasons that one must have trust.
নিউ ইয়র্ক থেকে সম্প্রচারিত TVN 24 টেলিভিশন বিশ্বজুড়ে বাঙালির কণ্ঠস্বর।